What's going on, everybody? Nick here from Screen Time Continuum. Welcome to another episode. I am here, as always, with Keelan. What is up, my dude? How you doing, man?
Yeah, nothing much at all. It's funny because I didn't know if there was a delay or if it was me listening too slow, and then it caught up, and I didn't know when to come in,
Oh,
but
good.
um, I am doing well. It's a pretty cool Sunday. I will start this by saying usually the last few like drops, like TV shows, movies, whatever, like nothing comes out exactly on the time you expect it to. HBO did their thing. Just gonna say
Mhm.
that. Very, very on time. I was literally 5:59. I didn't even have to refresh. It refreshed itself.
Oh yeah, they're on top of that for sure. Well, thank you guys for joining in with us. We're hoping that you're having a wonderful evening. We also hope that you've been watching House of the Dragon episode 1 because that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, before we start blabbing on about it and ruining things for you, if you have not seen this episode yet, which just came out today, so it's very likely you may not have. This is your spoiler warning. We're going to be discussing the episode for this one and be kind of talking about all the details and stuff. So, if it's something that you haven't seen yet, please turn back now. This is your fair spoiler warning. Go watch it and then just come join us. We'll have it on the channel. You can always catch the replay, no problem, but we don't want to spoil it for any of you guys out there because we're going to be talking about it freely. So, again, spoiler warning for everybody out there. We're going to be talking about House of the Dragon, episode 1. And yeah. So, Keelan, House of the Dragon, we did a whole series on getting you caught up with Game of Thrones. And I think it was something like 9 or 10 episodes that we did where we took a season at a time and we sort of reviewed them. And Keelan had never seen Game of Thrones. And so, of course, I wanted to see his heartbreak over time as it progressed.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Right. It is what happened. And it's quite entertaining. If you guys want to go check that out, it's on our channel as well. We have a Game of Thrones playlist where you can go check out all of the episodes that we've done on Game of Thrones. But House of the Dragon, this is a new start. This is a are we ready to be hurt again? That's the main question. And so with that question, I kick it over to you, Keelan. First impressions. What do you think?
I just have to say, with you bringing it up, you took the Band-Aid off of that wound. It has yet to heal. Yeah, that is the question. I don't know. I have to say, my first impressions, because the question is for sure, do we want to be hurt again? Do we want to be let down again? I have no expectations. I don't care how many hours I've already watched of this show or this saga. I know nothing. And I will watch this with no information because I feel like even in this very first episode, there were a couple of moments where I was like, yep, didn't need to bring that up already.
Yeah, there were some points in there for me too, but yeah, I definitely echo your sentiment about not wanting to get too enthusiastic about it because we just don't know what is going to happen. And again, folks, we're normies here, and Keelan highlighted something very important, is that he's going to take the perspective of a normie for this season, which I think might be a healthy idea. Unless you're like a diehard book fan, there is a book about the House of the Dragon, so you kind of know where the story is going to go if you've read the books. I learned my lesson after Game of Thrones, and I'm going to take the normie approach and not read the source material because there might be some conflicts there.
Yeah, let's read it afterward. I'm down to go and read it.
I like that. Yeah, we can have a book club after this. After this, we'll read the book and we'll see how it goes. I think that's probably a little bit better for sure. But yeah, so Keelan, first impressions about the first episode. What did you like? What did you not like?
Man, seeing as how I know nothing about the projection of this story and it's all fresh material for me, it seems pretty awesome. I mean, most of the times you're gonna watch shows and you hear about dragons and mystical stuff, and you have to wait eons of episodes before you get into the dragons. Ah, we saw dragons before we saw people. They could have just turned it off. Whole series over right there. It was done. It was done. We saw our dragons. It's covered.
I think it would have been hard for them to sell if they didn't have a dragon in the first episode. That's for sure.
Right. And I'd like that we actually saw, I think, 3 different dragons, 2 for sure. For sure, 2 different dragons. And we got a little bit of background on the dragon's connection without giving you the lore. I thought that was really cool when we get into those weeds of who the dragons belong to and why. We don't get into the why, but it is very definitive that there is only one, I guess we'll call it race of people or ethnicity of people. There is only one family group that can control a dragon.
Yeah, the Targaryens.
Yeah. So I like that being obvious from the beginning. I like the implementation of the dragons. But overall, I like that they are on point with the intensity of the storyline. At first, it starts off a little like, hey, we're getting into the dragons. And if you know anything, hey, remember a couple of these little things? They may sound familiar to you, or at least they act like they should sound familiar to you. They highlight things that are going to be interesting to watch play out, such as airlines. Succession lines seem to be very big in this from the very beginning, because that's the story that even happens before we get where we are at the end of episode 1. It begins telling you about a succession story, and this episode ends with, I guess, the closing of a succession and the beginning of a reign. So all of those things I liked. Again, the things I dislike, what caused me to no longer be a guy who's trying to watch this with a blind eye. So the things I disliked, as far as somebody who doesn't maybe know about the previous 10 seasons or 9, however many seasons we went through, it could get a little bit confusing when they tell you that there are, I believe they said there are 5 houses at the beginning, but then they only told you about 2. And then if you know the other stuff, this is where I guess a little bit of information does help. You start to hear the names of those other houses that we already know exist because of the Game of Thrones. That's the only probably disconnect I would have if I didn't have that previous information. I'd be like, wait, so if there's this many houses, why are we only talking about these, and who are these other names that you keep bringing up?
Right.
But outside of that, I think it sets the ground for a pretty interesting story. But at the same time, right now where we stand, this one episode could have been a made for TV movie, and this could have just been it.
Yeah, interesting. I'm a bit apprehensive after going through the whole thing with Game of Thrones. There were things that I thought were interesting. I was finding myself recoiling a little bit, and maybe that's just past sour grapes. So I don't want to apply that to the show itself, because I still need to figure out whether I'm being resentful about Game of Thrones or I don't like the show. So I think I need to give it a little bit more, some more episodes to get to that point. But I did notice there's some good CGI. The CGI of the dragons was a little bit off for me, and that could have been my TV settings. So I might have to go through my TV settings and change that up, because I found the dragons very vibrant in color, and they kind of stood out against the rest of the show. Almost kind of like,
I share that.
Okay. Yeah, because I just felt like it was, and then I actually went back to Game of Thrones and I looked at some dragon scenes, and it doesn't have that same thing. So whatever they're doing kind of makes the dragons look a little bit made for TV movie, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. We don't need them to look amazing, and obviously that would cost a lot of money. Again, I'm not really sure. I kind of see where the direction of the story is going without knowing anything about the book itself. I can kind of glean where we're going to be going with this story, which I'm interested in, and I'm interested in seeing. I think where it falls for me is that I don't know if I'm attaching to any of the characters yet. And that may take another couple episodes for me to feel something for a character. But at this point right now, I'm not really attached to any of the characters. So I just didn't really feel. I didn't really feel anything for the episode itself. There were some great costuming. I think the silver wigs look pretty bad, if I'm being honest. Derpy Gaming says
I'm not
House
gonna
of
lie.
Unnecessary. You might be right
Yes,
about
so
that,
far.
Derpy Gaming. We'll see. We'll see.
I will admit, yes, that this is not necessary so far. And as far as the wigs, Nick, I just have to say it the way I saw it. Um, I just assumed that it was me.
No, it wasn't.
And when I mean it was me, I'm trying to find the nicest way to say this. I just assumed they got like the old Star Trek image in their mind of how they used to do the hair and the skin back then. And it was like, oh, let's just hire anybody off the street to get this done.
Yeah, it didn't. It wasn't as convincing as Daenerys's hair, which is saying something because she had a wig. A lot of, I mean, like for all of it too, which
But it
was
actually looked
sometimes
good.
very obvious. Sometimes it looked great. Other times it looked very obvious. But I can find myself wondering, why can't they just dye the actor's hair?
You know what? I would assume because everybody's hair is different.
Maybe.
And
Yeah, you
so,
want uniformity. I get that.
yeah. So even when you try to strip, but see, I think that would make it more realistic because oh wow, but I could imagine what the budget would look like because you would have to pay a lot of people a lot of money, especially people with hair down to like the middle of their back, like 14, 16-inch hair, like real hair, and you're gonna make them strip that and turn it white. Yeah, that could cost a lot of money. That would probably double somebody's contract fee right there.
Yeah, well, but if you know that you're a part of a Game of Thrones franchise, like, you know you're going to get paid, so you might as well
Look,
just bite the bullet and actually
half,
just let them dye your hair.
you're right. Look, I'm sure Hathor made a couple of million just from letting them kill him on air on TV.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, it's an acting gig. But anyway, so let's get into the story of this. Really, what this episode revolves around is setting the stage of sort of the height of the Targaryen Empire, sort of the golden age. Everything is going really well. You get at the beginning, you get this very Lord of the Rings-esque introductory thing, which was a direct copy of Lord of the Rings.
It wasn't just me, and you know I am not a Lord of the Rings person, but I was sitting here like,
why is that so familiar? Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't a why. It was a okay. So we're gonna be telling a lot of story. That's literally how it told me. It just read to me like, oh, this is gonna be a lot of talking, a lot of talking.
Yeah, a lot of front loading the exposition, I guess, which is fine because then they don't do a whole lot of exposition dumping in the episode. So it might have been better that they just put it all up front, like the way they did with Lord of the Rings. You get the gist of what's going on. But basically, this revolves around Viserys, King Viserys, and his struggle to have an heir.
And he has 172 years before Daenerys. That's very important to mention.
Which is give or take because I mean, like they messed up some of the timelines in the book and the story and all of that, so it's a little bit.
I also noticed they put 172 on the screen, but at one point somebody says 196.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I can't remember. What I do remember, and now that we're past the 10-minute mark, is seeing for the first time in my adult life on a TV show a winking butthole.
I missed.
Did you? Okay, good. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm being a little bit crass right now. I had to wait until 10 minutes so that I could say that without getting flagged by the algorithm. This is the first time I've ever seen in my life on any show, HBO or not, that literally somebody's
flexed
sphincter. There was literally a sphincter in the shot of one of the scenes.
I don't want to know what scene that was.
It was in the brothel right before.
I figure.
Yeah, right before Daemon makes his speech about being the heir. There's like a very quick scene of it, and it's it's just like, all right, well, you want to do better than Game of Thrones, I guess that's where you go, right?
Little brown eye.
Yeah. So the story in this episode really revolves the struggle of King Viserys Viserys, having to come to terms with the fact that he is not unable to produce a male heir. His wife is pregnant, but she's had complications before. She's had miscarriages before, and he seems very hell-bent on producing a male heir so that the stability of the realm will maintain, because since he hasn't had a male heir, there's been a lot of people starting to look at his position as something that might be up for grabs because he hasn't had a successor. And throughout this episode, you basically get the final conclusion is, well, he has a daughter, which is kind of like a oh duh moment. But eventually, at the end of this episode, Rhaenyra is dubbed the heir apparent to the king. And this is where I feel like the story is going to actually start going. I felt like this episode was a lot of setup. Like, we need to get these people in the right places in order for the politics to start, because I don't think this was very, that Game of Thrones politicky stuff. You see a little bit of glimpses of it once in a while, but I think this episode was about setting the board. So now that we have Rhaenyra. Now that we have Rhaenyra as the heir apparent, I'm sure that's going to cause some sort of interpersonal strife.
Oh yeah. I only give her so many episodes before the first attempt on her life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite possibly.
Protect her more, so like she's gonna probably be the first one to keep her dragon in the castle type stuff. Something I think is very, I don't know if it's telling or just interesting in general, but this is one of the reasons I felt I needed to watch this with a blind eye, like not a game of a after watching Game of Thrones, just
not with a brown eye,
not with a brown eye, but with a bare eye. But I feel like if Rhaenyra had been this queen who did so well with the land, we would have heard about that time and time again during Game of Thrones, especially while Daenerys was trying to fight for power, because that would, of course, be one of the biggest stories. Like, my ancestors, Rhaenyra, a woman was queen before. Like, that would have had to be a powerful point for her. Except it wasn't. It wasn't. It was all about revitalizing the house name after the Mad King's dissension.
Yeah. We got a comment here. Sorry. Simone says she has HBO Max and keeps getting kicked out. I actually saw a lot of people reporting this. There might be that there's so many people trying to watch the episode right now that's just booting them. Because I've seen a couple of my friends post the same thing where they're trying to log on and it just shows like an error screen. So likely they're just getting flooded, and unfortunately you might have to wait like an hour or two before they can get their stuff together.
It's funny, before it showed, so maybe 10 minutes before it actually appeared on there to watch, I was going through, I guess, the sneak peek trailers and some of the interviews and stuff, and it kept doing that on some of those. So it's definitely HBO, but by the time the show came up, I was free and clear. But yeah, I'm sure it's a server malfunction type of thing. By all means, guys, even if you're having that issue, come right back on over here. We'll still be here for you covering some of this stuff. And as this season goes, I think that might be a consistent thing, because we know that everybody loves this saga right now, you know?
Yeah. I think it's probably just the novelty of the first episode too. Everybody jumped on around the same time. So they just probably have traffic issues, most likely.
Yeah, and nobody's.
It's funny is that this is probably the most people that have been on HBO Max at any given point. So they probably just don't know how to handle all of these people trying to access it.
I doubt Space Jam got this many people on at one time.
Right, or Mortal Kombat, or the Snyder Cut.
Maybe Mortal Kombat, but I don't know if everybody actually watched it. Like, probably 10 minutes in, they gave out.
Yeah,
but yeah. So the whole thing for this, for me, as we're getting through it, I was really interested in Daemon Targaryen, because I expected him to, I'm not gonna lie, I expected him to actually be more brutal than he's showing to be. But maybe that develops. He seems like that character that, he has a lot of love for his family. He has a lot of love for his brother. He doesn't seem like what was the dad's name for the Lannisters?
Oh, Tywin.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a Tywin Lannister type where he's gonna kill family or anything to get by.
Mm,
However, I do think the way he's been treated in this episode and the way it seems like he's gonna be treated in further episodes like coming forth, I think that could mold him into being a more sinister character than he's showing in episode 1.
mm. Yeah, I will say that I think Daemon Targaryen is the one character right now that I feel most gravitated towards. Probably just because he has the most to do in this episode. The rest of the characters don't have a ton going on with them, so that might change. But I think Matt Smith did a pretty good job. Again, the wig is awful and it's a little bit jarring. I just wish that they would have played with like lighting a little bit more. If the wig looks like crap, just like kind of turn the lighting down. Everything is so bright. I don't know why everything's so well lit. It doesn't need to be so well lit.
The sun was higher in the sky, and the skies were had less fog in them back in those days.
Everything's digitally rendered. That's what it is. So it's like there are like everything is perfectly lit at all points, and
I
it's
think
just
if
like
they want to learn how to do a good white wig, they should watch the show is called People of Earth with Wyatt Cenac. There's a white alien. They call him the white alien, but he literally is like all white, white hair, blah blah blah. They play him like he's a Swede, basically. But the point is, that dude's hair almost looked like he really died. He might actually dyed his hair white, but it looked like it was his.
mhm.
Like
Yeah.
even in the most pretentious of like, that's a terrible hairstyle for a guy. It still looked like his actual hair. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some potential here for sure. I think there's some attention to the detail. The costume design obviously is very good. I could tell that there's a lot of attention to detail in the armor pieces and the dresses and all of that type of stuff. So I know that they're pulling out their A game for that. It remains to be seen. Again, we're normies, so we don't know the story of how this is all going to unfold. So it remains to be seen if they stick that landing or if that story is even any good. I've heard some people say that that's not their favorite story in the saga, but again, I am totally ignorant to that. So we'll just have to kind of see it as it plays out. I did find Rhaenyra a little underwhelming.
Yeah. I feel like they tried to Arya Stark her too early.
She kind of just had too much of a Daenerys vibe to me. Like Daenerys in the first couple seasons where she's a little bit quiet and just like, yeah.
I feel like it was a little bit of both because they gave her, yes, I did see that as well. Kind of the passive aggressive, but the aggressive reminded me a lot, as I was saying a moment ago, of Arya Stark. Just simply, but not in the beginning of Arya, at the end of Arya, like that slick assassin type, like, oh, I have a hidden agenda, but you would never know it type of a deal.
She does seem like she does have some ideas, like it does seem that there's a little bit more than what's on the surface with her. So it might be interesting to see, what that turns out to be. Yeah. I do kind of find her more compelling now that and I think it's probably a good thing that they cleaned up that whole succession thing in one episode. Because I really didn't want to have that dragged out. Like I really didn't want to have multiple episodes. Like I knew it was going to be Rhaenyra. Let's get to that so we can move this story on and see what she does.
Yeah, fair.
I think there was a little bit of shock factor that they tried to up the ante with in this episode, just because it's like the first episode of a Game of Thrones franchise, and I don't know if it was absolutely necessary. I don't know if cutting open a woman's stomach, I don't know if it was entirely necessary. I think it was a little bit more for the shock value, which is fine, but I don't know. I'm getting old, so I
get it. It's funny because that was literally where I wanted to go next. I was gonna ask, do you think that was the world's first botched cesarean? Actually,
well, it certainly wasn't successful on either part. So
yeah, it was definitely a botched experiment there.
Right. Yeah. Which ended up not even mattering because the heir just became Rhaenyra anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna kill the baby and the wife, huh? Well, I guess we could have just let her and the baby survive.
Yeah. You could have just not made your wife try to produce an heir like 5 times in whatever how many ever years. Like
In 10, she said five babes in twice as many years. Like,
yeah,
damn.
that's too much, man. You should have taken it as a sign.
Be surprised she made it past number 2.
Yeah, it's also kind of like, I know that the book, I guess this probably happens in the book, so it makes sense for the character, but it also is like, oh,
The book is probably like 12.
yeah, maybe. I just didn't. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a. I don't know if it was necessary to have the entire scene of her being cut open like that. I'm okay with things being left to the imagination, and we've talked about this before with Game of Thrones. I could do away with all the nudity as well. I don't really need it in the story.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just me. I'm getting older and my sensibilities are starting to, get more rigid. And I just don't like all the kids in their rock and roll music.
Turn it down.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just being a curmudgeon about it. That's totally possible too.
That's hilarious. It's funny because you say that and I was like, there was nudity in this? Oh, wait, yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised that there was, to be honest, because they pulled back on the nudity towards the end of Game of Thrones anyways. Yeah.
I mean, look, can I just say, for HBO, when HBO shows, and I don't mean this in any way to be mean or derogatory, because hey, listen, it's all nice. But when it's A and B cups, I don't think it's considered nudity on HBO.
That does seem to be the consensus. Yeah.
You get what I mean. It's like,
I get what you mean.
To be rude. I think when it's anything that's not bouncing and jiggling,
right,
they're not gonna whatever. It's just there. It just exists. Right. It's like saying shit. You can say shit as many times as you want, and it's still gonna be PG-13, but you only get one F-bomb.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, or in this case, you get one winking butthole.
Yeah,
and that was it.
See, look, and they kept it all A and B cups so they could have a winking butthole.
Bro, I was so shocked. I was so shocked. Holy moly. I don't think that was left in on purpose, but holy moly. Somebody should have caught that one.
Somebody didn't get paid and left that one in a final cut. They couldn't get it out.
I mean, like, seriously, I don't even think that's legal for them to do.
It's HBO.
I know.
It's not TV. It's HBO.
HBO's never shown that before. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. I used to watch the Red Shoes Diaries back in the day.
Okay, maybe.
I think that was Stars, actually. Or Showtime. I don't think that was HBO.
All I'm saying is it felt illegal watching.
I mean, look, it's HBO, so honestly, I don't know what's wrong for HBO. Like, what can they not do? Didn't they used to show snuff films in the 90s? Like, didn't they show 9.5 Weeks back in the day? If they showed that movie, I don't think there's anything they can't show.
I mean, maybe you're right. Again, maybe I'm just getting old and I'm just not used to seeing sphincters on TV.
Hey, at least it winked at you. It was being nice.
What's going on? This is Fiaz Hussein. Hello, how are you? We're just talking about Game of Thrones, having some fun. It's been a while since we've been able to discuss Game of Thrones, so we're kind of happy to do that. So Keelan, favorite character so far? Is it Daemon? Or
I know it's kind of
early. First favorite character of episode 1.
So far, I think it is Daemon, but I want it to be a close second is what was his name? Corlys Valerian.
Corlys, yeah.
Because it's like he only speaks when he's for sure knows what he's talking about. Like when he knows what he's saying is 1,000% valid, he speaks. And then you speak and he kind of look at you like, oh, that's what you think. Okay.
Yeah, he's nicknamed the Sea Snake in the books, I believe. And he's like a very well-renowned sailor and sort of like naval tactician. That's why he was talking about the ships at the meeting. Yeah.
Right. No, I fully go ahead.
It is called Hot D. Sorry, Fiaz.
Hot D.
It is called that. That's what everybody's adopted it as. So it's not GOT, it's Hot D.
It's Hot D. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna watch some Hot D this week.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. That's what the internet does to you.
His favorites
I think
are Damon and Rhaenyra. Yeah,
oh, nice.
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra's-
I want to like Rhaenyra. I just don't know enough about her yet, and I haven't read the books, so I'm assuming that we're gonna get a lot more to know her a lot better over this season. So
yeah, I think she might end up being my favorite at the end of all of this. Depending on how long she survives. If they Ned Starker,
no, I don't think so. I think she's like one of the main characters, so I think she's gonna be around
and listen, I don't know nothing.
for at least 2 more episodes.
But yeah, it's just because I don't know. I have this thing where I really appreciate that I don't know anything about House of the Dragon. And I am making this real effort to not remember Game of Thrones, so it kind of makes it fun to hypothesize.
Yeah,
what I think is gonna happen. Did I like the dragons?
Yeah, did you like the dragons, Keelan?
Did I like the dragons? Yeah, I liked the dragons. I agree with Nick. The generator or whatever technology they're using this time, it gives it a little more of a animated feel, but I don't dislike it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be too critical about it because it's a very difficult process to do. And as long as they're not used like overly much, although it is called House of the Dragon, so I'm assuming they're going to use them a lot. What I did find was I looked back into season 5 of Game of Thrones, and we were watching a scene with Drogon. And I actually kind of preferred Drogon's animation to anything I saw in this episode. I think it is just because of the high frame rates, the digital rendering of everything. It's all very clean, crisp. Everything's lit perfectly. All the shadows are perfect. It just looks a little bit too clean.
Well, let's call these pilot dragons too. I'm kind of waiting to see what they look like in episodes 2 and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it could be totally just, me needing to acclimate to the new sort of visual cues and all of that stuff too. Because it would make sense that this isn't the sort of gritty, dark world that you're used to in Game of Thrones, where everything's very dreary. This is the height of a golden era. This is sort of like the good times of a kingdom. So it would make sense that things do kind of feel brighter, and maybe they were using that technique through the through the camera and the direction to sort of show that.
Yeah, they made the effort for sure to show, even at with a quick clip, that the dragons are fully accepted by the surrounding townsfolk. Like, it's just normal that the dragons are there. They exist. And I also like the information being kind of just generally tossed out there that there are 10 fully grown dragons already out there available.
Right. With the Targaryens. I guess they might be, maybe they're the last 10. Maybe not. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if they're the last 10. They didn't say that, but they did say there are 10 fully grown ones. And it did seem as if a Targaryen gives birth to a child, then a dragon gives birth to an egg, or I guess births an egg and then the egg hatches, however that works. At least that's what I got from just the surrounding talk. This hasn't been openly discussed in the episode.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that in Game of Thrones too, right? Daenerys's dragons only really hatch after the death of Drogo and her son. So you have that comparison. Fiaz asks what we would rate the first episode. I don't know. We don't do ratings on the first episodes because we just can't make a distinction about how we see it as a season as a whole. So we'll have to kind of wait until we're watched all of the episodes, because it would be unfair of me who's probably feeling a little bit lower on the scale right now, to say something like that and then be like, oh, but it was actually pretty good. Then you guys don't. Then you guys don't trust what we have to say when we say, like, I want to get as much information as I can, because I also told Keelan that Game of Thrones was awesome until I saw the last season or so.
Man, listen, all I have to say is how I felt about the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. I'm just glad we do it season by season, because how I felt at the end, if we had just did that whole series, I would have said I hated it from the beginning. Yeah. But we can't. I think it would be crazy to even rate the first episode of this. Again, I have a firm belief when it comes to first episodes of anything, because they're pilots. they're going to be episode 1 is going to be stages above episodes 2 and 3, and you don't know what you've got until you put episodes 1, 2, and 3 together. And then you can kind of gauge where the season, or yeah, at least that season is going by episode 5. Even if you get like 14 episodes by episode 5, 6, then it's kind of like, oh man, this is crazy. But you have enough time for some twist in there as well.
Yeah, I think it was probably fair. And this is going to be 7 episodes. I think it's 7 episodes in this season. Yeah. So I think it'd be fair that we'll probably get a good grasp of what the season's going to be like by the 3rd episode, by around the middle point. As it stands right now, there's just not enough information for me to be comfortable with giving a number value to this episode yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's think. So we got the 172 years out the way. We see the dragons. Oh, so Prince Daemon. And this is what I meant when I don't think he's a bad guy, but for someone who hangs out in the brothels and rents them out for his entire guard, I mean, he has a real disliking to the criminal element, or he just likes to make a point. I'm not sure how that goes.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. Ayla is saying hello too. She says thoughts on Daemon Targaryen's arm. Really, his armor. I like the details. I think the details are great. The ruby eyes are very good. It's kind of a recall to Rhaegar, who's supposed to have like a ruby breastplate back in Game of Thrones. So you see that correlation there. The detailing of all of the costume design is very good. I couldn't say anything bad about that because they just have so much great detail. So, and I think that the practical effects of those costumes actually probably made the show feel like an actual show, because there was a heavy reliance on CG and sort of green screen in certain elements. And so if they hadn't had good costumes, I think you would have probably noticed that a lot more.
I don't think anything about the costumes jumped out at me, but nothing about the costumes were bad. Like it almost fell right in line with where I feel like the costumes were going in Game of Thrones. Of course, budget is always a thing with that. So I did feel like all the costumes got way better, way more detailed. And when we jumped into this, I feel like this just picked up where that left off when it came to costumes.
Certainly, yeah. I think it's on the same sort of caliber of the end of Game of Thrones when they had all of the budget money. But yeah, I think that Daemon's armor is really cool. It's that black scale armor, and it looks like a dragon. And he has got the dragon face on the helmet with the ruby eyes. That's cool. It's menacing, and he seems to be a character that is a sort of you don't know where you want to pin him yet.
Right. You're almost afraid to be a champion of his. Like you're almost afraid to champion him on, to say like you want him to do well.
Yeah, I was getting a creepy vibe from him and Rhaenyra too. I felt a little bit, with Game of Thrones' history with that type of stuff.
Just say it felt real Game of Thrones.
It did. It did. Okay, it wasn't just me then. All right, good.
No. Was this Faiz Hussein? He says that there are 10 episodes in season 1.
All right. Yeah, I can believe it. I thought it was only 7, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not right most of the time, so I can believe it when I'm wrong.
I remember looking it up earlier, but I didn't note exactly how many. So 7, somewhere between there. I don't have the definitive number. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, hey, 7, 10. Again, I'm the kind of person you could give me 14 as long as they're good. I'm here. It's just a question of how good will they be.
Yeah. Ayla here mentions that his the evening of justice for Daemon. Yeah, I think that shows his like sort of lust for brutality. I think there is something bubbling up under there. His resentment of not being the heir. His sort of they say it in the council too, his propensity for violence. He seems to enjoy violence. He certainly liked cutting that guy's balls off, or his penis. I don't know what it was.
Which part
it was one of the parts. But yeah, he definitely was very gleeful about all the violence, which adds a certain color to his character because he's also very restrained in front of his brother. And he knows, he's smart enough to know not to let his sort of outbursts onto his brother.
Right.
Yeah.
That did seem very knowledgeable of him, as if he's had a prior experience of violating that and going beyond the tilt and knowing when to, like, okay, wait, this is my line. Let me stay here so I don't get punched in the face.
Right.
Look, let me stay in the little brother's place, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, as far as Rhaenyra being named the heir, I think, from the beginning we all saw it coming. I think it's the best thing that could have happened. Perfectly fine with it being a woman, but my reasoning for wondering, with them getting to it so fast, like I said earlier, I'm questioning how long is what's her mortality rate?
I think they're doing a lot of time condensing, if I had to speculate, because I don't know how long the sort of back and forth about who the heir should have been takes place in the book. It could be a longer period of time, and so for the show, we're sort of condensing all of this stuff. Which, if that,
You think more heads would roll in the book between time passing between the death of Balon
I think there's probably a lot more politicking involved. I would think that Otto Hightower, he seems like he's scheming about something. It also seems like he's trying to get his daughter in the king's bed. So it seems like
he has a thing for the Rhaenyra, but that's another.
Right. I know. Yeah. So it would seem that he's doing a lot of scheming. Now, I don't know how much of that scheming we see in this season, but it would seem that he is making plans and he is trying to sort of steer things in a particular direction.
Right. Mentioning Otto Hightower, so the names, again, they never really mentioned all of the names of the hierarchy, the families, right? So we have the Valerians, we have the Hightowers, the Targaryens. We hear the name Baratheon, and that's pretty much where it stopped, correct?
Rickon Stark was there as well. He was swearing his fealty to Rhaenyra. Yeah.
And that's so you get a little paying attention to the names that were mentioned during the swearing at the end when they were swearing fealty. But yeah, you're right.
You also have that Dornish fighter, the sort of mysterious Dornish fighter at the jousting event, who probably will be a part of the story too.
Right, because the Dornish were, and it was even stated how back then the Dornish and the Targaryens were almost allies.
Yeah, the Dornish were the only ones not to bend the knee to the Targaryens when they landed in Westeros.
Yeah, same in Game of Thrones. They bend the knee. They don't bend the knee to anyone.
That's right. We do not. Unbowed, unbowed, unbroken. I think that's our house motto.
Man, look, I'm sitting here like I'm gonna go watch our 10 hours again. I've been trying to skim through it, but I gotta actually pace through it.
Yes,
I'm not watching the whole series again. That's too much.
No, just watch our recap of it. It's better.
For sure.
But yeah, anything else you wanted to bring up? I'm kind of interested in seeing where Corlys Valerian goes. I know that he's kind of a big deal in the books, or at least a very beloved character. So I would assume that he's probably going to have more to do in this series as well.
Right.
But anything else, Ben? You got?
No. Again, Otto Hightower is probably the most interesting storyline right now because he seems like the one that's going to be aiming for the throne and really has no footing for it. He even as the king's hand, he's only the king's hand because he's known to be a good servant, not even because he's known to be honorable. He's just known to be a good servant.
Yeah.
So
and Daemon clearly hates him, and
Daemon clearly hates him. So and the best thing is, Daemon's supposed to hate him. Why does he hate Daemon?
It's a good question. According to him, it's because he's impulsive and violent and not fit to rule, but there's probably something a little bit more there. I wouldn't be surprised.
No. Yeah. Look, sounds like somebody you just don't want to be in charge of you, sir.
Right. Which is quite possible. Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily blame him too, after, beating the crap out of his son and then making his daughter give him the favor.
Oh,
he was definitely rubbing in his face.
Oh, yeah. But that's what my question is. Like, he has all of this loyalty to the king, fake, calling Cap. But he has all of this loyalty to the king and a hatred for the king's brother, so much so that the king, who clearly doesn't hate his brother, has done these things that I think he just realized when they had that discussion how much he has slighted Damon by sending him on these missions and giving him these other positions when it's like, nah, bro, I wanted to be here next to you the whole time. You spat in my face.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting kind of like a Rasputin vibe from Hightower. I don't know if that's accurate, but he does make me think like he's the vizier of the Sultan, but he's the one trying to, he's trying to steer all of the Jafar-esque sort of character. Yeah.
I like that. I never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. He has that. And that would mean that so here's what we're gonna watch out for with Otto Hightower. He somehow is gonna have a bond with the Meister, which means that's the magic and the potions and the poisons and stuff. And when we see that, then we're gonna know for sure that he's the bad guy.
All right. Yeah.
And that's
right.
also gonna explain why the Hightower name doesn't fall later into succession.
Right. Well, and also we see that I keep saying Viserys, right? Is it Viserys?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Viserys keeps cutting himself on the Iron Throne. And
he definitely does. And at first, I thought that was Daemon at first, but I don't think Daemon would try to kill his brother.
No, I don't think so. I don't know what's going on with that, if I'm being honest, but it did look like he was getting grayscale on his back or something.
Grayscale kind of it looked. I remember it kind of being like a mold over, like a callus. Yeah. This was almost like a bacteria eating his flesh.
That's true. Maybe he does. Yeah, maybe he has staph infection. Maybe that's what that is.
Yeah, all of that metal, staph infection, tetanus.
Getting cut by the Iron Throne. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yikes. No tetanus shots back then.
Talk about rust poisoning.
Yep.
Jeez, that's a whole nother world. Look, that's a whole nother show they could get right there.
Right. And have that be the reason that all of his offspring ended up stillborn, right? Because he has heavy metal poisoning. Yeah.
Diseases of the throne.
Right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, as far as I can say, there isn't a whole lot for us more to say because this is just very much of an establishing episode. I can say that I am interested in what they might present to us. I hope the writing gets a little bit better. If I'm being honest, I wasn't blown away by too many of the dialogue scenes. I think there were some that were decent, like between Varys and Daemon. I thought that was a good scene. One of the council scenes were pretty good too. But I think that what ultimately needs to happen is obviously we got to let the characters develop some more, and we got to get to know them more for us to care about what they're saying. So it's a start. I'll be very, very lightly vulnerable and see where this show goes. Right. But I'm not keeping my hopes up.
I will say I dislike a couple of the names being so close and are synonymous with names from Game of Thrones. I.e. Varys, Rickon Stark, those names. It's like,
yeah. Well, Rickon was named after Rickon. They use the same names a lot in the Stark family.
That's all I'm saying. Like we know.
And then Viserys was also Daenerys's brother.
Ah, dang, you're right. I forgot. Yeah.
And that's where he gets his name. Yeah.
The reuse of names. Maybe it's just the luxury of having made up names nowadays. I don't know.
And I think Rhaenyra is one of the names. It's like it doesn't. Maybe not. I don't know. Rhaenyra. No. I was thinking if there was if Daenerys had a sister that died, but I don't think so. But yeah. Anyways,
you remember hearing her say Rhaenyra?
Well, there's Rhaenyra, which is one of the characters too. So there's a lot of similar names.
I guess we're gonna have to not be normies and go and do some research.
Yes, we'll have to watch a video or two to educate ourselves on the lineages here.
Tarnation.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll do it. We'll be more informed next week, right?
For sure we will, man. And I have to say though, I wasn't exactly sure how I would feel going into this series, starting this new season up. Almost wanted to say, you know what, let's just wait. But I'm kind of glad I didn't. It feels good to be in familiar territory and still be lost.
Yeah, and I hope that we get some, some sort of breakout scenes in this series, that are reminiscent of Game of Thrones, but their own thing. I don't need any retreads or member berries or anything like that. I definitely don't need it to be like, trying to remind me of Game of Thrones every 10 seconds. I'd like to see it do its own thing. But I would definitely like to see it have some shocking moments, and hopefully we get those moments in the future.
I think we will. And also, unless it's a future foreshadowing type of a thing where somebody's seeing the future, we shouldn't hear or see anything about The Walking Dead, or probably even Wildlings. Actually, at this point.
Oh well, we already heard about the long night though. That was the last. That was
Dang
the
it,
part
you're
of the
right.
last. Yeah.
The song of Fire and Ice, and that was
Yeah.
probably the other part that made me just like, come on, you did too soon.
Too soon. It's been years. I will say one more thing before we go. I want to shout out to the music composition. It was incredible. It was very good. I love how they tied in a lot of the old themes from Game of Thrones and then renewed them. So in particular, you have the main theme song gets played a few times. You also have Daenerys's theme song that gets played a few times, and they're sort of revamped for this series, which I thought was very good. So the music is on point. I think they're doing very well with that, which I wasn't surprised about. I mean, they've all pretty good with music. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the music to be bad. So just
right. I just wanted to give it a shout out because so very rarely do music composers and stuff get shout outs for their work.
Very true. Always, we try to make that an effort on here.
Always trying to give props where props are due. So, but yeah, man, do you got anything else before we wrap this one up?
Nothing on the show. Again, it was good. I'm not super excited, but I'm not excited. So let's see what next week holds. I want to say shout out to Derpy Gaming, shout out to Simone Hackett, Fayez Hussein, and Ayla. Thank you guys for commenting and joining us.
Yeah, thanks you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll be here every Sunday night at 8:30 or 9, depending, to talk about House of the Dragon for the next several weeks. So you can come 10 weeks. Yeah. So you can come back here every Sunday night and listen to us. And, the benefit of being a small channel is if you guys want to drop comments in the comment section, we will read them because, we have a smaller channel. And so we can manage all of the comments as they come in. So you get better opportunities for engagement here with us. So let us know what you guys thought about the episode. Do you like it? Are you excited? Is this renewing your enthusiasm for Game of Thrones? Are we ready to be heard again? Are you going to trust? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for listening tonight. We are here every Wednesday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. You can catch us here on Screen Time Continuum on Facebook, on YouTube. We're also on a couple other platforms, but you can check out our podcast network over on Thinkering Talks on the Facebook page. And that has many podcasts. It's got a podcast every week for you guys, basically. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are Dijon the Mustard on Twitch at Strawberries and Coffee. You can go check him out. If you like streaming video games, if you like that type of stuff, go check that out. Strawberries and Coffee on Twitch. Wednesdays, Sundays here at Screen Time Continuum. Got Facebook page and a YouTube page. You can check us out 8:30 p.m. at Screen Time Continuum. Let's see, Friday night for Exofathom with Ayla and Mike and myself. And we go on at 8 p.m. Friday night, Exofathom on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Odyssey, all that good stuff. Then we got This Married Moment on Saturday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. or noon with Keelan and Bobby. This Married Moment on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Spotify. Go check them out. Saturdays between 10 a.m. and noon. Keelan's also got a podcast Tuesday nights, lest I forget. It's called If Numbers Could Talk, and it's on 8 p.m. Go check him out. Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for all of the followers and the people who watched live with us. We really appreciate all of you guys. We never expect to see people watching us, so we're very appreciative when you do tune in. Thank you guys a lot, and we'll see you next time. Until then, for Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
And I'm Keelan.
Good
Thanks
night.
a lot, guys.